Hello everyone, and welcome back to Snowbound Screams. Tonight, we travel into the forgotten backroads of America, places where light fades, and what remains are stories that refuse to die. Across these hills, rivers, and empty towns are accounts drawn from witness reports, police files, and archived broadcasts. Each one verified, recorded, and retold in their own words. Now, let us begin with our first pursuits. It was late September of 2019. Nevada Highway Patrol Officer Mark Reynolds had been with the department for 7 years, working primarily the night shift along Highway 95 between Tonopah and Hawthorne. The desert night was unusually clear, with temperatures hovering around 62 degrees, according to his dashboard display. Reynolds had just completed his routine traffic stop log at 11:37 p.m. when dispatch alerted him to a vehicle traveling at excessive speed northbound on Highway 95, approximately 20 miles from his position. The desert landscape stretched endlessly in all directions, marked only by occasional Joshua trees silhouetted against the star-filled sky. Reynolds' patrol car cut through the darkness with focused beams of white light, illuminating the asphalt ahead as he accelerated to intercept. The radio crackled with routine updates from dispatch as other officers reported their positions along the vast stretch of highway. Reynolds had pursued countless vehicles through these same desert roads, but nothing could have prepared him for what would unfold over the next 47 minutes. At 11:42 p.m., Reynolds spotted the vehicle, a late-model sedan, with no visible plates approaching rapidly in the distance. He activated his emergency lights and prepared to initiate a traffic stop. The sedan continued its approach without slowing, maintaining what appeared to be a steady speed of approximately 100 miles per hour. Reynolds radioed dispatch to update the situation as the sedan passed his position. What happened next would become one of the most perplexing cases in Nevada Highway Patrol history. The pursuit began as Reynolds turned his vehicle around and accelerated. The sedan maintained its incredible speed, with Reynolds struggling to close the distance. The chase continued for approximately 10 miles before the sedan's brake lights suddenly illuminated, and the vehicle slowed to a complete stop in the middle of the highway. Reynolds approached cautiously, maintaining a safe distance as he exited his patrol vehicle. The sedan remained motionless, its engine still running, headlights cutting through the darkness ahead. Reynolds radioed his position and status to dispatch, noting the unusual behavior of the vehicle and its occupants. As he approached the driver's side window with flashlight in hand, he noticed something peculiar, and the windows were completely dark, tinted beyond legal limits. He tapped on the window with his flashlight, announcing his presence and requesting the driver to lower the window. There was no response. He tapped again, louder this time, with the same result. The desert silence was broken only by the idling engines of both vehicles. After several minutes with no response, Reynolds returned to his patrol vehicle to request backup. As he was speaking with dispatch, he witnessed the impossible. The sedan, still running with headlights on, began to fade from view not by driving away, but by becoming increasingly transparent, as if dissolving into the desert night. Within seconds, it had vanished completely, leaving only the empty stretch of highway illuminated by Reynolds' patrol lights. Reynolds reported the incident to dispatch in disbelief, requesting immediate backup and a helicopter search of the area. Multiple officers arrived within minutes, along with a search helicopter equipped with thermal imaging. Despite an extensive search of the surrounding desert area, no trace of the vehicle or its occupants was found. The asphalt showed no tire marks beyond those left by Reynolds' own vehicle, and no evidence of the sedan's presence could be detected. The incident report filed by Reynolds, case your 19-09008-047, remains one of the most unusual in Nevada Highway Patrol history. Multiple officers who responded to the scene corroborated Reynolds' account of the empty highway, with no evidence of a recent vehicle presence. The helicopter search revealed no heat signatures or vehicle tracks leading away from the highway. Several days later, investigators returned to search the area more thoroughly, finding no evidence that could explain what Reynolds and other officers had witnessed that night. Reynolds underwent a standard psychological evaluation following the incident, which found him to be of sound mind and judgment. His dashboard camera had malfunctioned earlier that evening, explaining the lack of video evidence of the pursuit. Audio recordings from his radio transmissions, however, clearly document his increasing confusion and disbelief as the events unfolded. The case remains officially unsolved, with many officers who reviewed the report admitting they had no explanation for what occurred that September night in the Nevada desert. No trace of the mysterious sedan or its occupants was ever found. It was early December of 2020. Officer Sarah Martinez had transferred to the Nevada Highway Patrol just 6 months prior, bringing with her 8 years of law enforcement experience from urban departments in California. The transition to patrolling Nevada's vast desert highways had been challenging, requiring adjustment to the isolation and extreme weather conditions. On the night of December 3rd, Martinez was patrolling Highway 375, the infamous extraterrestrial highway, when she encountered what would become the most bizarre pursuit of her career. The desert air was cold, with temperatures dropping to 38 degrees as midnight approached. A light dusting of snow covered the surrounding landscape, creating an eerie glow under the full moon. Martinez had just completed her hourly check-in with dispatch at 12:17 a.m. when she noticed headlights approaching from the distance. The vehicle appeared to be traveling at a normal speed, but something about its movement caught her attention. It seemed to glide rather than drive along the highway. As the vehicle drew closer, Martinez noticed several unusual characteristics. The make and model were unrecognizable, appearing somewhat like a vintage sedan, but with proportions that seemed slightly off. The headlights were unusually bright, yet they didn't cause the typical glare that would make it difficult to see the vehicle's shape. Most peculiarly, the vehicle seemed to be floating slightly above the road's surface, with no visible suspension movement as it traversed small irregularities in the asphalt. Martinez decided to initiate a traffic stop, primarily due to the vehicle's lack of a visible license plate. She activated her emergency lights and pulled onto the shoulder, expecting the vehicle to pull over as well. Instead, it continued past her at a steady 55 miles per hour. Martinez radioed dispatch to report the vehicle and began a pursuit, accelerating to close the distance. What happened next would challenge everything she knew about physics and vehicle dynamics. As Martinez accelerated to catch up, she noticed the vehicle ahead maintaining its speed without any apparent effort. When she reached 80 miles per hour, the mysterious vehicle instantly matched her speed without any audible acceleration. When she attempted to pass, the vehicle would instantly position itself to block her path, yet without any visible steering movements or tire marks on the snow-dusted road. The pursuit continued for approximately 20 miles, with Martinez growing increasingly frustrated by the impossible driving behavior. At 12:42 a.m., Martinez radioed dispatch to report the unusual nature of the pursuit, specifically noting the vehicle's apparent violation of normal physics. Dispatch logged her call at 12:43 a.m. and immediately dispatched additional units to assist. As Martinez continued the pursuit, she witnessed the vehicle perform maneuvers that should have been impossible, making 90-degree turns at full speed without slowing or leaving tire marks, and at one point, temporarily driving sideways along the highway for approximately 300 feet before resuming its forward motion. 2 additional patrol units arrived at 12:56 a.m., joining the pursuit from opposite directions. Officers David Chen and Robert Williams both independently confirmed Martinez's observations about the vehicle's impossible behavior. The 3 patrol cars attempted to box in the mysterious vehicle, but it simply passed through their formation without making physical contact, as if it were intangible. The officers later reported that the vehicle seemed to flicker or distort visually when it passed close to their patrol cars. At 1:17 a.m., the vehicle suddenly stopped in the middle of the highway, causing the 3 patrol cars to stop at a safe distance. The officers maintained their positions, weapons drawn, awaiting further developments. For approximately 3 minutes, the vehicle remained motionless, its impossibly bright headlights creating a blinding glare that made it difficult to observe any details. Then, without warning, the vehicle lifted vertically into the air, ascending silently until it disappeared from view. The 3 officers stood in stunned silence for several moments before collectively reporting what they had witnessed to dispatch. A search of the area revealed no tire tracks or any physical evidence that a vehicle had been present, other than the tracks left by the patrol cars. The incident report filed by Martinez, Case 20-1203 or 0112, was supplemented by statements from Chen and Williams, all describing similar impossible events. All 3 officers underwent psychological evaluations following the incident, with all being cleared of any hallucinations or psychological disturbances. Their patrol car dashboard cameras had inexplicably malfunctioned during the pursuit, showing only static when the mysterious vehicle should have been visible. Audio recordings, however, clearly document the officers' increasing confusion and disbelief as the pursuit unfolded. The Nevada Highway Patrol conducted an internal investigation into the incident, interviewing all 3 officers multiple times and reviewing dispatch recordings. The official report concluded that the officers had witnessed something unexplainable, but stopped short of suggesting extraterrestrial involvement. The case remains officially open, but inactive, with no additional sightings of similar vehicles reported in the area since that December night. No conventional explanation could account for what the 3 officers witnessed that night. It was mid-July of 2018. Deputy Frank Miller of the Nye County Sheriff's Office was nearing the end of his shift when he received a call about a suspicious vehicle near the entrance to the abandoned mining town of Belmont. Miller had worked in Nye County for 12 years and was familiar with the area's history and its numerous ghost towns. At 10:43 p.m., he radioed dispatch to confirm he was responding to the call, estimating his arrival time at approximately 11:15 p.m. The desert night was warm, with temperatures still hovering around 87 degrees despite the late hour. A light breeze carried the scent of sagebrush and dust, creating an atmosphere that Miller had grown accustomed to during his years of patrol in the Nevada desert. The moon was nearly full, casting long shadows across the landscape as Miller drove east on Highway 82, then turned onto the dirt road leading to Belmont. What he would encounter in the abandoned mining town would challenge his understanding of reality and leave him with questions that remain unanswered to this day. As Miller approached the outskirts of Belmont, he noticed headlights moving between the dilapidated buildings. The vehicle appeared to be a pickup truck, though the distance and shadows made it difficult to determine specifics. Miller slowed his approach, parking his patrol vehicle behind a large cluster of sagebrush approximately 500 yards from the town's edge. He radioed his position to dispatch, noting that he would proceed on foot to observe before making contact. The abandoned mining town of Belmont had been largely deserted since the early 20th century, with only a handful of structures still standing in various states of decay. Miller moved quietly between the shadows of buildings, his flashlight off to avoid detection. As he drew closer, he could hear the sound of a vehicle engine, but it seemed to be coming from multiple directions at once, echoing strangely among the remaining structures. When he reached the edge of town, he witnessed something that defied logical explanation. The pickup truck he had seen from a distance was indeed present, parked in front of what had once been the general store. What was impossible, however, was that there were now 3 identical pickup trucks parked at different locations throughout the town, all appearing to be the same make, model, and color, all with engines running. Miller watched in confusion as a figure moved from one truck to another, appearing to inspect each vehicle in turn. The figure moved with an unnatural smoothness that seemed wrong in the uneven terrain of the abandoned town. Miller radioed dispatch to report the unusual situation, requesting backup. As he was speaking, he noticed the figure suddenly turn in his direction, despite being over 200 yards away and partially concealed by shadows. The figure raised an arm and pointed directly at Miller's position, though it should have been impossible to detect him in the darkness. At that moment, all 3 truck engines revved simultaneously, creating a deafening roar that echoed through the abandoned town. Miller decided to announce his presence, stepping out from behind the building with flashlight in hand and weapon drawn. "Nye County Sheriff's Department, show me your hands," he shouted. The response was not what he expected. Instead of complying, the figure simply pointed again, and all 3 trucks suddenly drove away in different directions, moving at impossible speeds across the uneven terrain without their headlights illuminating the ground ahead. Miller returned to his patrol vehicle and began pursuing the truck that had driven east, radioing dispatch to update them on the situation. The pursuit was short-lived, as the truck ahead suddenly vanished again, not by driving out of sight, but by disappearing completely while in motion. Miller stopped his vehicle, scanning the area with his spotlight, but found no trace of the truck or any tracks leading away from where it had last been seen. The other 2 patrol units that had been dispatched to assist Miller arrived at 11:47 p.m. Together, they searched the abandoned mining town and surrounding area. They found no evidence of any vehicles having been present recently, no tire tracks in the dust, no footprints other than their own, and no signs of recent activity in the abandoned buildings. The only unusual discovery was a series of strange circular patterns burned into the wooden floor of the old general store, each approximately 3 feet in diameter. Miller filed an incident report, case number 918-0719-023, detailing the events of that night. The 2 responding officers provided supplemental reports confirming the lack of evidence in the abandoned town. All 3 officers were puzzled by the discrepancy between what Miller had witnessed and the complete absence of physical evidence. The case was investigated further over the following weeks, with no satisfactory explanation ever found. Several months later, a team of paranormal investigators visited Belmont after hearing about Miller's experience. They reported experiencing electronic malfunctions, strange sounds, and an overwhelming sense of being watched while in the abandoned town. They also documented the same circular burn patterns that Miller had discovered, though laboratory analysis of wood samples provided no explanation for how they had been created. Miller never again experienced anything similar during his patrols of the Nevada desert, but he remained convinced that what he witnessed that July night was real. Not a hallucination or trick of the mind, but something truly unexplainable. He retired from the Nye County Sheriff's Office 2 years later, but often found himself thinking about the abandoned mining town and the 3 identical trucks that had defied the laws of physics and logic. No evidence was ever found to explain what happened in Belmont that night. It was late August of 2021. Officer James Wilson had been with the Nevada Highway Patrol for 3 years, primarily working the graveyard shift along Highway 93 between Alamo and Caliente. The night of August 27th began like any other. Wilson had started his shift at 9 p.m., completed his vehicle inspection, and begun his patrol of the desolate stretch of highway. At 11:52 p.m., he received a call from dispatch about a vehicle driving erratically near the Crystal Springs area, approximately 30 miles north of his position. The desert night was unseasonably cool, with temperatures around 68 degrees and a light breeze coming from the west. Wilson had always enjoyed the night shift, finding a certain peace in the vast emptiness of the Nevada desert under the star-filled sky. As he drove north to respond to the call, he noticed something unusual in the sky ahead, a series of pulsating lights that appeared to be hovering over the desert landscape. At first, he dismissed them as military aircraft from the nearby testing ranges, but their movement patterns seemed too erratic and precise to be conventional aircraft. Wilson radioed dispatch at 12:13 a.m. to report his position and mention the unusual lights in the sky. The dispatcher acknowledged his report, noting that no military exercises had been scheduled for the area that night. As Wilson drew closer to the reported location of the erratic vehicle, he noticed the lights in the sky seemed to be moving in coordination with the vehicle's reported movements. What he would witness over the next hour would challenge his understanding of aviation and physics. At 12:28 a.m., Wilson spotted the vehicle, a large, dark-colored SUV, driving approximately 60 miles per hour in a 55-mile-per-hour zone. As he activated his emergency lights and began to close the distance, he noticed the lights in the sky suddenly descending toward the highway. The SUV ahead accelerated rapidly, reaching speeds that Wilson estimated to be over 100 miles per hour. The pursuit had begun, but this would be unlike any pursuit Wilson had experienced before. As Wilson struggled to keep up with the SUV, he watched in disbelief as the lights in the sky formed a perfect triangular pattern directly above the fleeing vehicle. The lights moved in perfect synchronization with the SUV's movements, including sudden lane changes and acceleration. Wilson radioed dispatch to update them on the pursuit, specifically mentioning the unusual aerial phenomenon accompanying the ground vehicle. The dispatcher logged his call at 12:34 a.m. and requested additional units to assist with the pursuit. The chase continued for approximately 15 miles, with the SUV maintaining its incredible speed despite the winding nature of Highway 93. Wilson noticed that the vehicle seemed to be taking the curves at impossible speeds without any loss of traction or control. The lights above continued their perfect synchronization, occasionally emitting a low-frequency hum that Wilson could feel through his patrol car's frame, despite the windows being closed. At 12:49 a.m., 2 additional patrol units joined the pursuit from the north, attempting to set up a roadblock ahead of the SUV. Officers Jennifer Park and Thomas Bradley both independently confirmed the presence of the mysterious lights above the fleeing vehicle. As the SUV approached the roadblock, it suddenly decelerated from over 100 miles per hour to a complete stop in less than 2 seconds, a maneuver that should have been impossible without causing catastrophic vehicle damage or loss of control. The 3 patrol cars maintained a safe distance from the stopped SUV, which now sat motionless in the middle of the highway, with the 3 lights hovering silently above it. Wilson, Park, and Bradley all reported feeling an unusual sensation of pressure in their ears, similar to altitude changes in an aircraft. The SUV sat motionless for approximately 3 minutes before the lights above it suddenly shot straight up into the sky and disappeared from view in seconds. As soon as the lights vanished, the SUV's engine roared to life, and it accelerated away at an impossible speed, disappearing from sight within seconds. The 3 officers gave chase but quickly abandoned the pursuit when they realized they couldn't possibly match the vehicle's speed. A search of the area revealed no tire marks beyond those left by the patrol cars, and no evidence that the SUV had ever been present on the highway. Wilson filed an incident report, case number 21-0828-014, detailing the pursuit and the unusual aerial phenomenon. Park and Bradley provided supplemental reports confirming Wilson's observations. All 3 patrol cars' dashboard cameras had inexplicably malfunctioned during the pursuit, showing only static when the SUV and lights should have been visible. Audio recordings, however, clearly document the officers' confusion and disbelief as the events unfolded. The Nevada Highway Patrol conducted a thorough investigation into the incident, consulting with aviation experts and military authorities. No explanation could be found for the lights' behavior or their apparent connection to the fleeing vehicle. The official report concluded that the officers had witnessed an unexplained phenomenon, but stopped short of suggesting extraterrestrial involvement. The case remains officially open, but inactive, with no additional sightings of similar incidents reported in the area since that August night. Wilson, Park, and Bradley all underwent psychological evaluations following the incident. With all being cleared of any hallucinations or psychological disturbances, they remain convinced that what they witnessed was real, not a collective hallucination or trick of the mind, but something truly unexplainable that defied conventional understanding of physics and aviation. No conventional aircraft or vehicle could account for what the three officers witnessed that night. It was early November of 2017. Officer Daniel Ramirez had been with the Nevada Highway Patrol for 5 years, working primarily the night shift along Highway 95 between Goldfield and Beatty. The night of November 9th began as unremarkably as any other. Ramirez had started his shift at 10 p.m., completed his routine vehicle inspection, and begun his patrol of the desolate stretch of highway. At 1:23 a.m., he received a call from dispatch about a vehicle traveling southbound at excessive speed, approximately 20 miles north of his position. The desert night was cold, with temperatures dropping to 41 degrees as a light wind swept across the open landscape. Ramirez had grown accustomed to the isolation of night patrol in the Nevada desert, finding a certain comfort in the predictable routine and the vast emptiness of his surroundings. As he drove north to intercept the reported vehicle, he noticed his radio beginning to pick up unusual interference. A series of faint voices speaking in what sounded like a mix of English and something unrecognizable, layered beneath the normal dispatch communications. Ramirez attempted to adjust his radio frequency to eliminate the interference, but the strange voices persisted, sometimes becoming clearer and more distinct. At 1:37 a.m., he spotted the vehicle, a dark-colored sedan, approaching rapidly in the distance. He activated his emergency lights and prepared to initiate a traffic stop. As the sedan passed his position without slowing, Ramirez turned his vehicle around and began the pursuit. What would unfold over the next hour would challenge his understanding of radio communications and leave him with questions that remain unanswered to this day. As Ramirez pursued the sedan, he noticed the strange voices on his radio becoming more distinct and seemingly responsive to the pursuit. The voices would occasionally speak in clear English, offering cryptic comments like, "He's getting closer," or "turn at the next junction," moments before the sedan would perform the corresponding action. Ramirez radio dispatched to report the pursuit and the unusual radio interference, but the dispatcher claimed to hear only normal transmissions from Ramirez's end. The chase continued for approximately 20 miles, with the sedan maintaining a steady speed of approximately 95 miles per hour. Ramirez noticed that the vehicle ahead seemed to anticipate his every move, changing lanes before he could attempt to pass, adjusting speed to maintain a consistent distance, and taking turns at precisely the moments when the voices on his radio suggested it would. The correlation between the radio voices and the sedan's movements became too precise to be coincidental. At 2:03 a.m., Ramirez requested backup as the pursuit continued deeper into the remote desert area. 2 additional patrol units were dispatched to assist, though they were approximately 30 minutes away from his position. As Ramirez continued the pursuit alone, the voices on his radio became increasingly clear, now speaking entirely in English and providing detailed commentary on the pursuit in real time. "He's calling for backup," one voice said. "They won't arrive in time," another responded. At 2:19 a.m., the sedan suddenly turned off Highway 95 onto an unmarked dirt road that Ramirez had never noticed before. He followed cautiously, maintaining radio contact with dispatch to report his position and the increasingly bizarre nature of the radio interference. The dirt road wound through the desert landscape in a pattern that seemed intentionally confusing, with multiple forks and turns that made it difficult to maintain visual contact with the sedan ahead. The voices on Ramirez's radio continued their commentary, now including personal details about Ramirez that should not have been accessible through any law enforcement database. "He's been with the department for 5 years," one voice said. "His daughter turned 7 last month," another added. Ramirez felt a chill run down his spine as the voices revealed increasingly specific personal information about him and his family. At 2:38 a.m., Ramirez's patrol vehicle suddenly died and the engine cut off. The lights went dark and even his emergency radio went silent. The sedan ahead stopped approximately 100 yards away, its red taillights cutting through the darkness. Ramirez sat in the darkness of his disabled vehicle, watching as the sedan's doors opened and several figures emerged. The figures moved with an unnatural smoothness that seemed wrong in the uneven desert terrain. For approximately 5 minutes, Ramirez watched as the figures moved around the sedan, occasionally glancing in his direction. Then, without warning, the sedan's headlights and taillights suddenly extinguished, plunging the area into near total darkness. When Ramirez's eyes adjusted to the moonlight, he saw that both the sedan and the figures had vanished completely, leaving no trace of their presence. At 2:47 a.m., Ramirez's patrol vehicle suddenly restarted on its own and the engine turned over. The lights came on, and the radio crackled back to life. The strange voices were gone, replaced only by static. Ramirez radioed dispatch to report his situation and request assistance. The 2 backup units arrived at 3:15 a.m., finding Ramirez parked on the dirt road with no sign of the sedan or its occupants. A search of the area revealed no tire tracks other than those left by Ramirez's patrol vehicle and the backup units. The dirt road itself appeared to have been unused for years, with vegetation growing in what should have been tire tracks if the sedan had actually driven there. The only unusual discovery was a series of strange circular patterns pressed into the desert floor, each approximately 4 feet in diameter, with no footprints leading to or from them. Ramirez filed an incident report, case number 17-1109-028, detailing the pursuit and the bizarre radio interference. The 2 responding officers provided supplemental reports confirming the lack of evidence at the scene. All 3 officers were puzzled by the discrepancy between what Ramirez had witnessed and the complete absence of physical evidence. The case was investigated further over the following weeks, with no satisfactory explanation ever found for the radio interference or the vanished vehicle. The Nevada Highway Patrol conducted a technical analysis of Ramirez's patrol vehicle and radio equipment, finding no malfunctions or tampering that could explain the strange voices or the vehicle's mysterious shutdown and restart. Radio experts consulted during the investigation could not explain how the voices had accessed personal information about Ramirez, or how they had seemingly anticipated the sedan's movements with such precision. Ramirez never again experienced anything similar during his patrols of the Nevada desert, but he remained convinced that what he witnessed that November night was real, not a hallucination or trick of the mind, but something truly unexplainable that had accessed his communications and personal information through means beyond conventional understanding. He transferred to a desk position 6 months later, citing the incident as a factor in his decision to leave road patrol. No technical explanation could account for the radio interference or the vanished vehicle that night. It was late April of 2022. Officer Michelle Thompson had been with the Nevada Highway Patrol for 2 years, having transferred from a municipal police department in search of what she called real law enforcement work. in the vast Nevada desert. The night of April 22nd found her patrolling Highway 6 between Ely and Tonopah, a particularly desolate stretch even by Nevada standards. At 10:51 p.m., she received a call from dispatch about a vehicle driving erratically near the lunar crater area, approximately 40 miles east of her position. The desert night was crisp, with temperatures around 45 degrees and a clear sky filled with more stars than Thompson had ever seen during her years in urban law enforcement. She had always found the Nevada night sky beautiful, but slightly unsettling in its vastness, a reminder of how small and isolated she truly was in the immense emptiness of the desert landscape. As she drove east to respond to the call, she noticed something unusual on the horizon, a faint pulsating light that appeared to be coming from the direction of lunar crater, an extinct volcanic cinder cone that stood out against the dark desert landscape. Thompson radioed dispatch at 11:23 p.m. to report her position and mention the unusual light near lunar crater. The dispatcher acknowledged her report, noting that no authorized activities were scheduled for the area that night. As Thompson drew closer to the reported location of the erratic vehicle, she noticed the pulsating light seemed to be growing brighter and more defined. What she would encounter near the mysterious landmark would challenge her understanding of geology, physics, and reality itself. At 11:42 p.m., Thompson spotted the vehicle, a large, dark-colored pickup truck, driving approximately 50 miles per hour in a 65-mile-per-hour zone. As she activated her emergency lights and began to close the distance, she noticed the pulsating light near lunar crater suddenly intensify, as if responding to her approach. The pickup truck ahead accelerated rapidly, reaching speeds that Thompson estimated to be over 100 miles per hour. The pursuit had begun, but this would be unlike any pursuit Thompson had experienced during her years in law enforcement. As Thompson struggled to keep up with the pickup truck, she watched in disbelief as it turned off Highway 6 onto a dirt road that led directly toward lunar crater. The road was not marked on any official maps and appeared to be newly created, with fresh tire tracks visible in the moonlight. Thompson followed cautiously, maintaining radio contact with dispatch to report her position and the unusual turn onto the unmapped road. The pulsating light near the crater grew brighter as they approached, illuminating the desert landscape in an eerie blue glow. The chase continued for approximately 5 miles along the dirt road, with the pickup truck maintaining its incredible speed despite the uneven terrain. Thompson noticed that the vehicle seemed to be unaffected by the rough road surface, showing no signs of bouncing or swerving, as it should have at such high speeds. The pulsating light ahead grew increasingly bright, now revealing what appeared to be some kind of structure near the base of the crater that definitely had not been there when Thompson had patrolled the area just a week earlier. At 11:58 p.m., Thompson requested backup as the pursuit continued toward the mysterious structure. 2 additional patrol units were dispatched to assist, though they were approximately 45 minutes away from her position. As Thompson continued the pursuit alone, she noticed the pickup truck ahead suddenly decelerating as it approached the structure near the crater. The structure appeared to be made of some kind of dark, metallic material that seemed to absorb rather than reflect light, making it difficult to discern specific details. At 12:07 a.m., the pickup truck stopped approximately 100 yards from the structure, and Thompson brought her patrol vehicle to a stop behind it. For several minutes, both vehicles sat motionless in the eerie blue glow emanating from the structure. Thompson watched as the driver's door of the pickup truck opened and a figure emerged tall and slender, moving with an unnatural smoothness that seemed wrong in the uneven desert terrain. The figure walked toward the structure, which suddenly opened to reveal a brightly lit interior. As the figure stepped inside, Thompson noticed something impossible. The structure appeared to be larger on the inside than on the outside, with dimensions that defied the laws of physics and perspective. Before she could process this contradiction, the pickup truck suddenly lifted off the ground without any visible means of propulsion, rising silently into the air and entering the structure through an opening that had not been there moments before. Thompson sat in stunned silence for several moments before radioing dispatch to report what she had witnessed. Her voice trembled slightly as she described the impossible structure and the pickup truck's vertical ascent into it. The dispatcher logged her call at 12:14 a.m., noting the unusual nature of her report. Thompson maintained her position, watching as the structure suddenly collapsed inward on itself, disappearing completely in a flash of bright blue light that temporarily blinded her. When Thompson's vision cleared, there was no evidence that any structure had ever been present near Lunar Crater. The pickup truck was also gone, leaving no tire tracks or any other evidence of its presence. The only unusual discovery was a series of strange circular patterns pressed into the desert floor, where the structure had been, each approximately 6 feet in diameter, with no footprints leading to or from them. The 2 backup units arrived at 12:53 a.m., finding Thompson parked near the base of Lunar Crater with no sign of the pickup truck, the mysterious structure, or any evidence that they had ever been present. The responding officers were initially skeptical of Thompson's report, but became increasingly puzzled by the complete absence of evidence and the strange circular patterns on the desert floor. Thompson filed an incident report. Case number 22-0423, detailing the pursuit and the impossible structure near Lunar Crater. The 2 responding officers provided supplemental reports confirming the lack of evidence at the scene. All 3 officers were puzzled by the discrepancy between what Thompson had witnessed and the complete absence of physical evidence. The case was investigated further over the following weeks, with no satisfactory explanation ever found. The Nevada Highway Patrol conducted a thorough investigation into the incident, consulting with geologists, physicists, and military authorities. No explanation could be found for the structure's appearance and disappearance, or its apparent violation of spatial dimensions. The official report concluded that Thompson had witnessed an unexplained phenomenon, but stopped short of suggesting extraterrestrial involvement. The case remains officially open but inactive, with no additional sightings of similar incidents reported in the area since that April night. Thompson underwent a psychological evaluation following the incident, being cleared of any hallucinations or psychological disturbances. She remains convinced that what she witnessed was real, not a hallucination or trick of the mind, but something truly unexplainable that defied conventional understanding of physics and spatial dimensions. She requested a transfer to a different patrol area shortly after the incident, citing a desire to avoid the Lunar Crater region. No geological or physical explanation could account for what Thompson witnessed that night. It was early June of 2016. Sergeant Robert Chen of the Nevada Highway Patrol was coordinating a special enforcement operation along Highway 95 between Las Vegas and Reno, a response to several recent accidents caused by excessive speed and impaired driving. The operation involved 8 patrol vehicles positioned at strategic intervals along the 200-mile stretch of highway. At 9:47 p.m., Chen received a call from Officer Maria Rodriguez, who was positioned approximately 60 miles north of Las Vegas, reporting a vehicle traveling at an estimated speed of 150 miles per hour. The desert night was warm, with temperatures still hovering around 83 degrees despite the late hour. A light haze hung in the air, reducing visibility slightly and creating an eerie glow around the few lights that dotted the vast landscape. Chen had coordinated numerous enforcement operations during his 15 years with the Nevada Highway Patrol, but nothing could have prepared him for what would unfold over the next 2 hours, as multiple officers independently reported witnessing the same impossible vehicle. At 10:02 p.m., Rodriguez initiated a pursuit of the vehicle, a dark-colored sedan that seemed to defy the laws of physics as it navigated the winding highway at incredible speeds. Chen immediately alerted the other officers involved in the operation, positioning them to assist with the pursuit as it moved northward along Highway 95. What made this pursuit unusual from the beginning was that every officer who encountered the vehicle reported seeing exactly the same thing, a black sedan with no visible license plates, driving at impossible speeds without creating any apparent wind turbulence or kicking up dust from the roadside. At 10:23 p.m., Officer David Williams joined the pursuit as the sedan passed his position near Indian Springs. Williams independently confirmed Rodriguez's observations about the vehicle's impossible speed and unusual characteristics. As the pursuit continued, more officers joined in sequence, each independently reporting the same impossible details about the vehicle and its behavior. The sedan seemed to be unaffected by the curves and elevation changes of the highway, maintaining its incredible speed without any apparent loss of control or reduction in velocity. At 10:41 p.m., Chen positioned himself near the Lathrop Wells area to join the pursuit as it approached. As the sedan passed his position, Chen witnessed what the other officers had been reporting: a vehicle moving at speeds that should have been impossible without causing catastrophic failure, yet showing no signs of stress or damage. The pursuit continued northward with now 5 patrol cars struggling to keep up, their emergency lights creating a strange light show in the desert night. At 11:03 p.m., the sedan suddenly decelerated from over 150 miles per hour to a complete stop. In less than 3 seconds, a maneuver that should have been impossible without causing catastrophic vehicle damage or loss of control. The 5 patrol cars maintained a safe distance from the stopped vehicle, which now sat motionless in the middle of the highway. For approximately 5 minutes, nothing moved. The sedan and patrol cars sat in a strange standoff under the vast desert sky. Then, without warning, the sedan lifted vertically into the air, ascending silently until it disappeared from view. The 5 officers stood in stunned silence for several moments before collectively reporting what they had witnessed to dispatch. A search of the area revealed no tire marks beyond those left by the patrol cars, and no evidence that the sedan had ever been present on the highway. The 3 officers who had not yet joined the pursuit, officers Jennifer Park, Thomas Bradley, and Amanda Foster, were directed to the area to assist with the investigation. When they arrived at 11:27 p.m., they found the 5 officers who had participated in the pursuit standing around their patrol cars, discussing what they had just witnessed. All 8 officers now stood together in the desert night, trying to make sense of what had happened. What made this incident particularly unusual was that all 8 officers independently provided nearly identical descriptions of the vehicle and its behavior, despite having encountered it at different points along the highway and from different angles. There were no significant discrepancies in their accounts, no differences that might be attributed to perspective, lighting conditions, or distance. All 8 described the same impossible vehicle with the same impossible characteristics. Chen filed a comprehensive incident report, case number 16-40602-033, detailing the pursuit and the collective sighting. The 7 other officers provided supplemental reports confirming Chen's observations. All 8 patrol cars' dashboard cameras had inexplicably malfunctioned during the pursuit, showing only static when the sedan should have been visible. Audio recordings, however, clearly document the officers' confusion and disbelief as the events unfolded. The Nevada Highway Patrol conducted a thorough investigation into the incident, interviewing all 8 officers multiple times and reviewing dispatch recordings. The official report concluded that the officers had witnessed something unexplainable, but stopped short of suggesting extraterrestrial involvement. The case remains officially open, but inactive, with no additional sightings of similar vehicles reported in the area since that June night. All 8 officers underwent psychological evaluations following the incident, with all being cleared of any hallucinations or psychological disturbances. They remained convinced that what they witnessed was real, not a collective hallucination or trick of the mind, but something truly unexplainable that defied conventional understanding of physics and vehicle dynamics. The incident has become a legend within the Nevada Highway Patrol, often discussed quietly among officers who patrol the vast desert highways at night. The most puzzling aspect of the case remains the perfect consistency of the 8 independent accounts, with no discrepancies or contradictions that might normally be expected when multiple witnesses observe the same unusual event from different perspectives. No conventional explanation could account for what the 8 officers collectively witnessed that night. The American landscape remains vast and unknowable, especially across Nevada's desolate highways where law enforcement officers patrol through the night. These professionals sometimes encounter phenomena that defy conventional explanation: vehicles vanishing without trace, aerial phenomena coordinating with ground pursuits, radio communications accessing information beyond normal channels, and atmospheric distortions manifesting scenes from the past. What makes these encounters particularly compelling is not their unusual nature alone, but the credibility of the witnesses. These are trained observers accustomed to documenting events with precision, not storytellers sharing campfire tales. Their official reports document events that challenge their understanding of physics and reality. The consistency across multiple witnesses, time periods, and locations suggests something truly unexplainable occasionally manifests along Nevada's desert highways. These encounters have unsettling implications for our understanding of reality. The Nevada desert, with its isolation and extreme conditions, may serve as a thin place where boundaries between different realities weaken. Those who patrol these highways at night are guardians of the frontier between the known and unknown. The silence following such encounters is profound, filled with questions that may never be answered. For officers returning to routine patrol after witnessing the impossible, the experience must be deeply disorienting, knowing their predictable world occasionally intersects with something beyond comprehension. If you or someone you know has a true story to share, leave it in the comments below. Each account contributes to documenting phenomena that defy explanation, connecting isolated incidents into a larger pattern. The Nevada desert continues to be fertile ground for such encounters, reminding us that mysteries persist even in our technologically advanced world. Thank you for watching Snowbound Screams. Until next time, stay safe out there.